Hey, what's up you guys? My name is Laura and today I want to talk to you about all the books that I DNF'd in 2021. And we're just kind of hoping that I don't DNF anymore because it is only December 8th. So we are manifesting only good reads for the rest of the year. That's how that works, right? Pretty sure.
Hey, so editing Laura here, and I just want to pop in and let you know that about a day after I filmed this, I DNF'd another book because that's who I am as a person. So that count is already wrong. And the book, in case you're wondering, was The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. It just did not work for me at all, and I wish that I loved it as much as everybody else did, but I just truly did not. So hopefully the rest of my reads are all not DNFs. But also, my glasses have a super annoying glare through the entire video, which I did not think about or consider the entire time I was filming. And I mean, even if I knew how to edit, I don't know that I have the patience to edit a video of this length to get the glare out of my glasses. So I found it super distracting while I was editing, and I apologize if you find it distracting. In the future, I will try and not have such a bad glare. Some of it is those glasses. Those glasses are much larger and more reflective. Hi, Nugget. So, anyway, I just wanted to let you know that I failed immediately after filming this and that I'm sorry that I have a glare. Yeah, okay, bye.
So I DNF'd a lot of books this year, but I don't have the exact number, but it was this many, so editing me can put that in. I have it somewhere, I just don't know where. Hello, Peanut. Hi. Did you want to talk about books with me? No? You just want to be annoying? I love you. Okay, bye. Okay, so we're going to go over the books that I DNF'd and a little bit about why. And maybe there will be a trend that we could find so that in 2022 I read more books that I like and less that I don't. Are you helping? She's helping. You're gonna knock that over, aren't you? Stop. Okay. And now my hair's on it. I love you, Peanut. Okay, so it should probably go without explaining that most of these books I don't have physical copies for, possibly none of them. I don't know. So, because if I had them, I got rid of them, and a lot of these were actually digital, so there's that. But the first book I DNF'd this year was The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien? I don't know how to say his name, I'll be honest. And this is now the fourth time that I have tried to get into the Lord of the Rings series, and this is the fourth time that I just don't care about it. I don't. He is not an author for me. He is not a storyteller that I enjoy. I have seen Lord of the Rings 3 times. I cannot tell you a single thing that happened in that movie other than there was a really cool fireworks show at the beginning, because I don't care. I don't like high fantasy, and I don't like anything about the Lord of the Rings universe, and I'm done trying to pretend like I care. It's not bad. I mean, and don't, maybe I should have prefaced this. Obviously, these are all my own opinions, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion, and if you like these books, I'm super glad. I just don't like Lord of the Rings. I just don't. The next one is The Sister Surprise, and I didn't write the author down, but it's right here. I got this one as an ARC from NetGalley, and I wanted to like it so badly, but we didn't. So in the story, we're following Ava, who has grown up with just her mother. She doesn't know who her father is. And at work, she gets this opportunity to get a DNA test and figures out through this DNA test that she doesn't know. She finds out that she has a sister she didn't know about. So she goes to meet her sister, but doesn't tell her that they're sisters. And let's see. I didn't like it, but on paper, it sounded like things I would like, which is why I requested it. Are you gonna sneeze? Are you done sneezing? Such a good girl. So on paper, it had a family mystery, a small town setting, one of those snowball lies where you tell a little white lie and then it like snowballs ridiculously out of control. That trope doesn't always work for me, but when it does, I love it. And of course, I can't think of any great example right now. But usually, like, you know, there's a reason we all love the stupid, cheesy Hallmark rom-coms at Christmas time. A lot of them will kind of feature it. So, I mean, it works when it works, but when it doesn't, it's really stupid. So, this was a case for me where it was stupid. And then, of course, there's the city girl goes to, like, the farm life and is overwhelmed by it. So, just all of that sounded like it would really work for me, but I just never got into it. I was just bored the whole time. Anyway, I think, honestly, with this book, I think if you've read her other book, you would probably enjoy this one. I think it was just her writing just didn't vibe with me. It wasn't really bad. It just was bad for me. Which is what most of these are. A lot of these are bad for me, but not necessarily a bad book. The next one is The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. Earlier this year, I kind of went on an Agatha Christie kick because my book club had read The Mysterious Affair of Miss Christie. The talk about her like weird disappearance. So I was like, I'm gonna read more Agatha Christie books because she's, you know, this queen of mystery. Turns out that I respect the hell out of this woman for what she did for the genre, and I do think she's a talented writer. I just prefer more contemporary mystery. She does have some absolute bangers. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd comes to mind, but for the most part, she just isn't one that I love, that I don't feel the need to read everything she's written. And then there was Someday by David Leviathan, which was an unnecessary sequel. I'm gonna say it. Didn't need to happen. Every Day, is that what it's called? Where is it? I have that book. Okay, I can't find it because it's probably directly behind me. Every Day, I thought was a really great concept. When I read that one, I knew I wasn't the target audience. I was a little too old for just like a contemporary YA. But I loved the concept. I thought it was really cute. I thought it was really interesting. I do think it could have talked more about bodily autonomy and things like that, but for the most part, I think it did okay. Overall, not with everything. But I liked it. And then Someday was a sequel that never needed to happen. And it was just, the characters seemed super annoying. The villain seemed cartoonishly evil. And I don't know, I'm not even gonna say that I won't go back to it, even though I'm like sitting here saying I hate it. It was a library book and I just didn't want to keep reading it, and I don't know when I'll pick it up again, but I haven't completely written it off because I did like the first one so much, but nothing about the second one was working for me. So if you've read it, let me know if it's even worth picking back up. Coming Up for Air by Nicole Tyndall. That confusion is going to make this next sentence weird. I picked this up because I actually went to high school with Nicole. We weren't friends. It's not like we know each other. She might be able to pick me out in a yearbook, but we don't actually know each other. But I thought it would be really cool to read a book by someone I actually knew. I was not the target audience for this book, and I do think for a debut novel it was fine, but I don't love sick lit. I read The Fault in Our Stars and I did enjoy that, but pretty much every other one that's come up has not been something I've even been interested in. This falls more in that category, and there's nothing wrong with those books, but it's just, I realized very, very quickly that I was not gonna enjoy this book because it wasn't written for me, and I wasn't able to give it a fair rating after that. I was just like, this wasn't working and I don't like it, and so I'm just gonna stop reading it. But I already said this, but I do think for a debut, I think she did a great job with the story. I just didn't click with it. Next was Veins of Gold by Charlie Holmberg. I have not committed to DNFing this entirely. I did technically DNF it, but I want to go back to it because I want to like it, which is weird because I have read 2 of Charlie's books. Oh, come on. It should be... I reorganized my bookshelves, and now I can't find anything. I want to love Veins of Gold because I loved Magic Bitter, Magic Sweet so much so that I will actually never read it again because I'm afraid I'll hate it. Isn't that weird? But her other book that I read, Paper Magicians, I hated. I thought it was awful. It was terrible. And I finished it because that was back before I DNF'd books. So it's weird to me that I'm like trying so hard to like another book, but Veins of Gold, I felt like the story that was in there was compelling. I just was not vibing. I had issues with the magic system. Like the magic mixed with the gold rush didn't work for me. There was a lot of tragedy considering that I only read like 100 pages. Like there was a lot of just everything that could happen keeps happening, and it's like, okay, at some point I'm not here for trauma porn, like stop. But it also didn't feel heavy enough for how much trauma there was at the same time. And that's more of an issue of YA. YA doesn't always get super, super deep, which is fine. That's usually why I like YA, because it's lighter, but there's a balance, and I don't think it was striking the right balance. The next was Ice Cream Wars by A.E. Radley, and I wanted to love this one. That's a common thread here. I want to love these books. A.E. Radley, though, she is someone I discovered because she used to write Swan Queen fanfiction, which if you are unfamiliar, Swan Queen fanfiction is the pairing of Emma and Regina from Once Upon a Time. And I loved them. When I watched that show, they were my OTP. They are like, they were the first fictional couple that I was just diehard shipping, that I wanted to happen. And so, I mean, I loved reading fan fiction about them. And I discovered A.E. Radley because she wrote the Flight SQA series, which is, of course, the first one. Oh, there it is. Which I have right here. And it's super cute. It is absolutely a Regina and Emma fan fiction that was rewritten into a trilogy. And it's super cute, and I love it, and I do enjoy her stories. So I've been slowly working my way through her works. There's a word that's totally escaping me. Okay, I can't put those back. But, so I've been working my way through her stuff, and Ice Cream Wars was a novella that she wrote with her wife, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be like super cute. And I couldn't finish it, despite it being a novella, which made me feel terrible. But the stakes were just bizarre. Like there was this very aggressive war with ice cream that didn't feel realistic, despite the fact that the story is set in reality. Like I couldn't suspend my disbelief enough. And it felt very much just like a Regina Emma one-shot on AO3 more than it did this novella of two completely individual characters. And it didn't really work for me the way they wanted it to work for me. So I gave up on it. It's a cute concept, and I think if you were unfamiliar with Regina and Emma, I do actually think it would be better, but I just couldn't get that connection out of my head. The next one is the Bridgetons Happily Ever After by Julia Quinn. Like everybody, I'm just gonna assume everybody, because generalizations are always true, watched Bridgerton last year or this year. I honestly don't even remember when I watched it, but I loved it. It was adorable, it was fluffy, it was cute, it was sexy, it was fun. And then, to my surprise, it was a book series. And I was like, yes, so excited. It was a historical romance written in like 2011 or maybe earlier. I'm probably wrong. And I binged all 8 of those books in a way too short amount of time, and I hated them by the end. Well, I hated them in the middle. They actually got better by the end. Almost all of the love stories are problematic in a way that might have been okay when they were written, but even then it was questionable. And the problem was, I don't care if they are realistic to the time period that you're writing in. Like, I firmly believe a lot of these actions were realistic. The problem is that me living in 2021 is not rooting for someone who is acting like a manipulative, borderline rapist to get together with somebody. Like, that's not a romance I want, even if it's realistic, you know? So that was my problem. So after binging 8 of those stories, getting to their happily ever after, I just didn't care anymore. I was like, I'm kind of sick of this family now. Still hyped for season 2 though. The show's gonna be fantastic. Netflix did these books a huge favor and made them way better. Which is such a rarity that I think a show is better than the books. I'm talking with my hands so much. But, yeah, so I don't like this. I might come back to it later as I watch the show progress, because the things I liked about Bridgerton were the family interacting, and I do think the epilogues are more of that than, you know, the romance part of it. So I do actually think I would like Happily Ever After. I just was so done with the Bridgertons by the time I got to it that I was like, I can't even. So I might come back, but whatever. Don't binge those. If you read those books, read them one at a time over like 8 years. So you have time to forget how bad the previous one was. The next one was Murder Drama with Your Llama. It had a cute name, had a cute title, it was $1, and it was awful. That's all I have to say about it. It just sucked. Then I DNF'd The Baby Thief by Barbara Besantz Raymond. I don't think I have ever DNF'd a book as fast as I DNF'd this. I think I made it 8 pages. It was that bad. And not because the story was bad. The story, amazing. I recommend you look into Georgia Tan. Is that her name? Yeah, Georgia Tan, and how she like built the adoption world as we know it in America, except for she was the shadiest bitch you're ever gonna meet. She was stealing babies left and right and like selling them on the black market, and so many of these children this was like not that long ago, do not have access to their birth records to know who their biological parents are, and probably many of them think that they were given up for adoption by parents who didn't love them, and in fact they were stolen from their parents. Like, it's horrific. This book never met an editor, and it was garbage. So Story of Georgia Tan, 10 out of, well, actually like 0 out of 10 in that she was an awful, awful person, but super interesting to read about. The Baby Thief, garbage book. Don't read that one. Just look up Georgia Tan. Then we have a twofer. I didn't actually read them back to back, but I'm going to talk about them together, which is The Luckiest Girl and The Favorite Sister, both by Jessica Knoll. And I should have learned, after hating one, that I wasn't going to like the other, but I'm trying to get through all of my owned books. And I'll never learn. So I read Luckiest Girl Alive. It was a cover buy. Still think it's a gorgeous cover. And I hated it. I think I made it maybe 2 or 3 hours into the audiobook, and it was super fat phobic. It seemed very pro anorexia. It's very materialistic, which isn't inherently bad, but I'm not someone who likes reading about designer labels left and right, so it didn't work for me. But, and I maybe we weren't supposed to like that main character, but I did not get a vibe that I was supposed to hate her. But I hated her so much I couldn't keep reading the book. I have no idea what the plot was, because after 3 hours I couldn't find it. So I gave up, right? But then I was like, well, I have this other book by Jessica Knoll, and I need to get through my things, and this one sounds so much better. The Favorite Sister. Nope, DNF'd it faster. Hated them almost as much. They weren't as fat phobic, so they weren't quite as bad. But no, I hated it. And I do think these characters were actually more intentionally unlikable. But no, turns out Jessica Knoll isn't an author for me. And that's great that she works for other people. She's just not one for me. So I just need to learn my lesson and stay away from her. Then we have Compliant by M.J. Casely. I don't know why I picked this up. I mean, I do, but I don't. So when I'm on Goodreads, like many of you, when other people are reading books or interacting with books, I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll read that. Well, a relative of mine who I don't talk to. We are not friends. And we have very, very different worldviews. She was reading this and I was like, oh, this sounds like a fun YA dystopia situation, so I'll read it. I don't know why I would have ever thought we would have had a book in common, so that was my first mistake. But the book sounded interesting because, you know, it's YA dystopia and of course women are oppressed. And at this one, at 16, you get like assigned like your life role. I believe you fall into your job. That's when they determine if you will get married, if you will have children, or if you'll just be single and working your job. And I don't remember why you would ever be paired without having kids, but it happened. I don't remember why, because it was boring. But what was interesting is if you weren't chosen to have children, that day you get sterilized, like they take your whole uterus out. So I'm like, that sounds traumatic and that is interesting to me. Super boring. Like, and it's like 7 books. Oh my God. And also my relative, still not done with it. It's not that long of a book. And it's been like months. Okay, do people not use Goodreads obsessively like I do? Inquiring minds want to know. Once More Upon a Time, also didn't write the author down. I wanted to like this, and I think this is one that might work for me if I read it on like Kindle, but it's right now it's an Audible original, probably forever, and the audio just was not working for me. There was like, it wasn't the narrators. The narrators did a fine job. There was apparently, I have to remember this, there was continual musical pauses as the scene changed, which kept taking me out of the story. And I appreciate the idea of trying to bring a story to life with other audio things, but it did not work for me at all with this. That I think I would be willing to try it again in a written format, but as an audio format, it just didn't work for me at all. The Handsome Boy and Her... Oh, wow, immediately got that wrong. The Handsome Girl and Her Beautiful Boy by B.T. Gottfried. Oh, did I want to love this book so much. Because it subverted tropes and I loved that concept. And there are things in it that I did love. I loved that Z and Art didn't fit their typical stereotypes, and I liked that Art was weird but super confident. And I found him annoying. But it was refreshing to see that the boy was the one hopelessly in love and still be so sure of himself. Like, it was nice to see something super different. And I like the dynamic that Z and her mom had and how that had a really good setup, but the story just never took off for me. And a lot of the story just felt like, I can make a joke about this because my friend is gay. And that's not how it works. So that was really frustrating because Art got mistaken for being gay, but his best friend was gay. And so Art made a lot of gay jokes and it was okay because his friend is gay. It's like, maybe your friend is okay with it, but you can't just do that. And so a lot of the humor didn't work for me and it sounded like that never got better. Are you ready for a controversial one? Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I wanted to like this because everyone likes it. It's children screaming. They're shocked too. I read Shadow and Bone. I read the trilogy. It was fine. I didn't love it, but it was just like, it was okay. I enjoyed it enough. I liked the Netflix show. And everyone said if you didn't love Shadow and Bone, you would love Six of Crows. And usually the reverse was true. I didn't love either of them. Six of Crows was boring. Fight me. No, don't fight me. I'm very sensitive. But it just didn't work for me. I hated that they were like children, which is stupid. It's YA. But like their level of experience didn't mesh with the fact that they were literal children. And I never got invested in it. And I wanted to. I liked the show. I get why people like The Crows because watching the show, The Crows were really interesting. I just didn't love the book. Because I didn't like Shadow and Bone that much, I'm done with Leigh Bardugo, I think. I'm just gonna call it quits. She's fine, she's just not for me. And then in a less surprising one, Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. Another one I wanted to love because I am still in the camp that I loved Red Queen. I know a lot of people have changed their mind on it, particularly after Warstorm, and I don't blame them. Warstorm was very, 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 very dry, and I didn't love it. But overall, I enjoyed the series. I had a good time with it. And because one of the first videos I ever posted talked about how there is a massive plot twist in that book that I never saw coming. Perhaps I would see it coming now because I've read so much more since I first read Red Queen, but at the time, blew my mind. It's not even like that good of a twist, it just blew my mind. So for that, I will always love it. But this book was awful. And if you're really into high fantasy and apparently Lord of the Rings, you will probably like Realmbreaker. As we've just discussed, I hate Lord of the Rings, so this was a huge no for me. I made it about halfway. It was a book club pick. I tried so hard. No one in my book club liked it except for maybe one or two people. And we were all very excited for it. It like won by a landslide and everyone's like, oh, just kidding, this was bad. The Night Tiger, another one that had a really interesting premise, fell totally flat for me. I was just bored. Like, the whole concept was like, this man gets buried without his finger, so his apprentice is trying to find his finger so he can be buried whole. And then there's like this talk of were-tigers. And none of it really went anywhere, and there was an incest subplot, so yeah, there was that. And then my review of Anxious People disappeared, so that was most recent DNF. I DNF'd Anxious People by Fredrik Bachmann. An unpopular opinion, I don't like his writing style. Not because it's bad, but because it doesn't work for me at all. I didn't love the hockey one, Beartown. Didn't love it. It's very conversational, and that doesn't vibe with me. So when I read Anxious People, I was like, oh, this is a cool concept. And then I read it and was like, oh, I'm bored. I've never been arrested, I've never been in police custody, and I've never been any of those things in Sweden, so maybe it's different there. But these people had no respect for the police officers, and even if all cops are bastards, when you're in police custody, you probably shouldn't be mouthing off to them. That's just kind of my personal opinion. It's just weird, and I didn't care really about the personal dynamics between the cop son-father duo, but ultimately what really just turned me off is just the conversational way that Bachmann writes. And I don't know if that is if it's an intentional choice or if it's more of a translation thing, but Bachmann's just a pass for me. I get why people like his stories, like his ideas are super compelling. I just don't like his writing style. Sorry, not sorry. Hopefully, that is all I've DNF'd in 2021, and hopefully I won't change my mind and DNF anything in the future. I'm only reading like 4 more books probably. I was like, I'm gonna read so many and clear off this. No, I'm not. I'm gonna read like 4 books tops. And I'm gonna get like 16 more for Christmas, and my ever-growing pile is gonna overflow and I'm gonna die. Have you read any of them? What are your thoughts on any of these books that I have DNF'd? Should I pick any of them back up? And I will see you guys next time. Bye!